Welcome to another episode of the Angels Positivity and Love Show. Incredible guests the world over with amazing experiences, skills, and a lot of love to share with all of us. We've got coming back to us a very special guest from Florida. Although he's traveling all over the world, all over the country, doing speaking engagements, plus just doing what he does. Psychic lawyer, author, been at it a long time. Mark Anthony, you've probably already heard of him, and he's definitely been on the show a bunch. And below this video, you can see the other segments he's been on. So just click those. You can go right over. Mark, great to see you again.
Thank you, Michael. It's always a pleasure working with you. The way you tap into the angelic realm is a gift, not just for me as your guest and the audience, but I think for the whole world because we really need this now more than ever.
Well, you're very sweet for saying that. And that doesn't get you off the hook. I'm still going to throw you the $1 trillion fastball if it's Major League Baseball. But luckily you're Hank Aaron. Well, name one of those other famous baseball players. You're a slugger. Um, there's a lot going on, a lot of complexity on the planet, and we
Yeah.
may feel some of that complexity one way or the other. Economics, gas prices, you name it. It doesn't matter where you live either. I think the whole world's getting a little impacted. Can you talk to us about how that may be part of a larger and long overdue unwinding of stuff and how there actually still might be more love coming in?
Yes, it's really synchronistic that you asked that particular question because about 3 years ago, um, when I was doing mediumship readings, a similar message kept coming in that said the organism is sick, but the symptoms had to rise to the surface so that we know how sick it is, and we're in a 7 year cycle. So we're roughly halfway through it. And what that meant is not just the US, but the whole world. The symptoms coming to are intolerance, violence, warfare, bigotry, hatred. These things had to be dragged out of the shadows. They've always been there, but they had to be dragged out of the shadows so that we could see them. Now, that doesn't mean the next 3.5 to possibly 4 years are going to be a piece of cake, but we have to go through this. And then after that, things are going to begin to stabilize. So, what's happening now is we're in a state of flux. And a lot of people, and I know that you and I always avoid political discussion, and we'll continue to do that. But there's a number of world leaders that are very turbulent and very aggressive right now, and they're stirring all this. And it's easy to say it's their fault, but they're part of the symptom. They're part of the symptoms that had to expose themselves. I mean, I'll pick on Vladimir Putin because I never mind picking on him. Um, Basically aggression, narcissism, ego, intolerance, lust for money, material gain. Same old story. We've been hearing this since the dawn of human history, and now he's completely exposed and really floundering in a lot of ways. And there's other world leaders that are doing the same thing. But all this has to come to a head. In this country, we're seeing all sorts of bigotry and hatred. This too had to come to the surface. So, as painful as this is for everyone, this is a necessary, I don't want to call it necessary evil, but a necessary malady. In other words, you don't know you're sick until you get a fever. So we have to have the fever and it's going to have to break before things come down. So that is what I've been getting spiritually for the past couple years. And so far, things have been consistent with these type of messages.
Well, you handled that like a champ, and we've stayed out of the details, which aren't necessary to get into, actually. But let's back up a little, and then we're going to approach it one other way in a moment. But let's back up and look at the whole big picture of the galaxy, cosmos, universe, or interdimensionality. I was just looking at a quote from 10 or 11 years ago from angels or from Native American chiefs talking about angels that they live within us. So they're around us, they live within us. It's good, however, anybody wants to view it. But there's something bigger going on. There's a lot of loving figures here to support mankind, all of us on our own journey. Talk to us more about that landscape.
I like the way you phrase that angels are in us. Now, my work with angels is that they're not human spirits who have become evolved. Angels are a separate species. And when we start working in the spiritual realm, there's a lot of forms of spiritual intelligence. There's human spirits, there's animal spirits, there's elementals, and the angelic spirits, they kind of get along with humans. All right, the best way I can describe it is when you look at the Lord of the Rings, the elves are the angels and humans are humans, and they can get along. Okay, and in the spiritual sense, they get along very well. Now, why is it or how is it that they live within us? Well, everything on the subatomic level, when you go from molecules to atoms to electrons, protons, neutrons to the subatomic base of everything in the material universe, which is a quantum, which is a particle slash wave of electromagnetic energy. And that means that everything, Michael, you, me, the radio waves this program's being broadcast on, the sun, the rings of Saturn, and beyond, are all on the subatomic level electromagnetic energy. And so are spirits. My electromagnetic soul theory that I wrote about and introduced in my book, The Afterlife Frequency, explains this in great detail. And that's how angels are in us. That doesn't mean they're like inside occupying us, but their energy interconnects with our energy. So when all the great spiritual teachers throughout human history have said we're all the children of God or the divine or we're all interconnected, well, that I believe is what they have been talking about. And to work with angels, the way when you open up your frequency to the higher realms, they come in. You brought up a really fascinating point before we went on air. You're talking about angelic entities, I believe it was from Sirius, like where music originated, and they have this really beautiful harmonic resonance. Well, there you go again. There's frequency. It's a resonance. And so we've got to be open to these higher frequencies. And when we resonate them that with them, that's when we're tapping into the angelic level. So I hope that answers your question.
Talk to us a little bit about what you do for folks. I mean, I think people who are familiar with you, you've done a lot of interviews, a lot of speaking engagements, and so on. You've got at least three books, and you went to Arthur Findlay College, which we've had about four other guests now, maybe five, go there. I'm actually interviewing someone else today for their third or fourth appearance, Mark Lanehart up in the Northwest, who was 2020 Psychic of the Year. He went there as well. So two in one day. But you have the Afterlife Frequency. I'm going to mention Evidence of Eternity. It was
Right.
Pulitzer Prize considered. But so you do what you do. You're going to explain that. Talk to us about how things have evolved over time, and you found a greater demand in this area, that area, or you've shifted for some reason a little bit, and how you roll.
Well, I'm known what is known as a psychic medium. There's different types of psychics, but a psychic medium, I communicate with spirits, and it's all about frequency and energy alignment. I open up my brain to higher frequencies, and spirits can see that when I'm in the receptor mode, and they're going to align their frequency with mine. I always like to use the AM FM radio analogy. We live in AM radio, spirits live in FM. And so, but there's a frequency overlap, and that's when spirit communication occurs. Now, from a biological standpoint, we have five different brainwave frequencies: gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Gamma, that's when your brain's working at, overdrive, that's when you're on Final Jeopardy or you're doing calculus homework. I mean, your brain is just cranking. Beta is the normal awake state, what I call activities for daily living. Then, as we begin to meditate, to pray, to relax, go into the daydream state, you shift from beta into alpha. Theta is that rich dream state sleep. And then delta, very little brainwave activity, but that's where your body heals. But let's get to alpha theta. The alpha theta border, and all of these can be quantified and measured through electroencephalogram, an EEG. And it has been demonstrated that around 8 hertz, which is the alpha theta border, that's when psychic and mediumistic activity occur. It's also when angels talk to us. We get into that zone. There's been a lot of scientific discoveries and work on this. Many people feel that being bored is somehow a negative thing, but it's not. Being bored is when you begin to shift naturally to the alpha theta border. And this is when several geniuses have gotten their best ideas. Sir Isaac Newton, when he was quarantining in self quarantine from the plague of 1665 in England, he was at his family farm by himself, and he was watching an apple tree, and all of a sudden an apple fell. Now we've all heard the story of Newton sees the apple fall. Well, in that trance-like daydream state, he realized it fell in a linear fashion. It didn't go sideways. It didn't go perpendicular. I mean, it fell perpendicular, not diagonally. And then all of a sudden, it hit him that this is the same force that regulates everything on Earth as well as the stars. And he came up with the concept of gravity and the laws of gravity. And I could go on and on about that. But the thing is, it's the alpha theta border. Now, generally, Michael, for people to get to the alpha theta border, you have to be in the sleep state. And that's why many people have dreams where loved ones in spirit will come and communicate with them. And you know that it's a contact experience because it feels real. The event has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's coherent. People come out and said, I had a dream that my, Aunt Edna came and talked to me, and she's been dead for years, but I knew it was real. Well, that's all frequency and energy alignment. You're going into 8 hertz. What those of us who study mediumship as a science don't understand is why people like me, and I understand your significant other as well, she has this capability, can go to the alpha theta state while we're conscious within seconds involuntarily. Um, I believe that it has to do with the structure of the pineal gland in the brain. And the pineal gland has calcite and magnetite crystals, which have piezoelectric properties, which means when force is induced on them, they generate an electromagnetic field. All right, here we go again. Okay, frequency alignment. So essentially, in our head, we have a TV and radio station, very sophisticated one. Brain has an electromagnetic field, so all this energy is flowing through. And the pineal gland is instrumental in regulating brainwave frequencies. So maybe I've got an extra calcium or magnetite chip or calcite chip fragment in my brain. Maybe it could have something to do with the neurons in my brain. And to an extent, this can be developed by most people. Just some people are better at it than others. So essentially, what it comes down to is I'm able to go into that alpha theta border state. Spirits see that and they come through. And if I'm doing a reading for a client, spirits are around us a lot. They'll say, okay, Mark's doing a reading for our loved one, Christine, who's here in this world. Let's talk to him so we can get messages of love, healing, and resolution through to her. So that, in the extended nutshell version, is what I do.
There's some pretty famous movies. There's The Dentist. He's hosted the Oscars. I forgot his name, the British comedian. Um, Taya Leone, her dad was in my lawyer. He was a partner at a law firm that I worked for out of Texas, but in New York City. He was just down the hallway. But she's in that movie. You know which one I'm talking about. He starts to see ghosts everywhere. They followed him around. He's like,
Yeah.
leave me alone. Yeah. Where is your line, your boundary? Is it you're seeing all the time, you're feeling all the time, or a long time ago you learned how to shut it off when you need it shut off and you have your privacy curtain?
Yes, an experienced medium sets the parameters of the contact. When I meet young mediums, teenagers, I see spirits all the time, or even adults who are not trained, shall we say. Oh, spirits are bombarding me all the time, and they're all happy about that. I tell them, do you keep the windows and the doors of your house open and unlocked 24/7? Well, no, of course not, because anyone or anything can wander in. Now, I'm not saying that evil spirits and negativity, but the thing is, an experienced medium defines the parameters of the contact and lets the spirits that work with us, who work with the spirits that come in, know I'm either doing this or I'm not. Now, why do we do that? We do that because, first off, I gotta have a life. I mean, if I gotta go to Walmart to pick something up or Ace Hardware to work on my irrigation system, I don't need to be bombarded by spirits the whole time. Plus, when you're open constantly, it denigrates and degrades the quality of the contact. Whereas when you keep that contact, I don't want to say at bay, but you treat the contact with reverence and as a sacrament, and at a and preserve it or reserve it for a special time, then you get better contact. So it's very important to be able to control this because you don't want to wake up at 3 in the morning and see all these spirits around you. And that would happen to me when I was a kid. And then when I realized, oh, I'm in control, not the spirits, and they will respect your privacy once you let them know, hey guys, not now. When I'm ready to do this, and the way I trigger it, Michael, they know when I do readings for people, I do a pre-explanation, but I say a prayer at the beginning of all my sessions. And it's the prayer of St. Francis. It's a very special prayer. And to me, he's an avatar, certainly. And that lets all my spirit guides know, okay, Mark's doing this. And that is my modality. Every medium is going to find his or her methodology on how to do this. I had one client one time say, "Oh, when you started with that prayer, I thought, oh God, he's all religious." And at the end of the reading, he said, "Wow, I feel so happy. I heard from people I never thought I'd hear from." So it depends on the individual medium, but that's how I do it.
Let's pivot back to the big picture, the complexity, but the opportunity for mankind to experience more compassion, kindness, gentleness. We're ready to get away from rat race mode. And a quick note, Delta was it was Alpha, Theta, Delta. What was the one, if I'm playing a video game running around, I've had 10 cups of coffee. What was
Gamma.
Gamma? Thank you. Okay.
You think
Um,
of gamma rays, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Here's St. Francis for people at home. You're already like this, buds.
Yeah.
Do you mind having St. Francis come in and just weigh in on what we need to know as humans on our loving path ahead?
Oh, St. Francis to me is one of the most extraordinary people ever to have walked the face of the earth. And he taught everybody that we are the children of God. He showed absolute compassion for animals. And he said, the way I'll say a human, but he said the way a man treats an animal is a reflection of how he treats other people.
Mhm.
Um, he would go into such a deep state of prayer. In fact, I believe it was when he said he made contact with one of the archangels. I believe it was Gabriel. It could have been Raphael. But after that, he developed stigmata, and stigmata is where you bleed from the wounds that mimic Christ's wounds on the cross, from his hands, his feet, his side, and the wounds of where the crown of thorns are. And there have been documented accounts of stigmata throughout the centuries. This is also a medical condition known as hematohydrosis. And people in extreme states of stress will sweat blood. If we go to scripture in the New Testament, just before Jesus is arrested, he's in the Garden of Gethsemane and he was praying so intently, he shed tears of blood. Now, it would be easy to pass off stigmata, which is seen by the Greek Orthodox and the Catholic Church as a miracle, as merely hematohydrosis. However, if it is just hematohydrosis, why is it that some people, like St. Francis, only bled from the areas of the wounds that mimicked Christ on the cross? If it was just a regular case of hematohydrosis, you'd be bleeding from your pores all over. And I like to put that out there because I want to make sure that we're fair and balanced. And I know that I'm talking about scripture and Christianity, and I'm not trying in any shape, form, or fashion. I know you don't either, Michael, to push any one religion on any person, because when you start looking at all the belief systems, they all are saying essentially the same thing. It's peace, love, humanity, compassion. And St. Francis embodied that. If you'll indulge me, I want to tell a story about St. Francis. Well, he lived in the early 1200s, and this was the height of the Crusades. Crusades were horrible. In fact, to this day, Islamic extremists, they still talk about the Christian Crusaders. The Crusades were a series of religious wars waged by Europeans to invade the area that we now call Israel slash Palestine to reconquer the city of Jerusalem, the holy city, the Holy Land. And during the Fifth Crusade was a bit different than the other crusades. The Fifth Crusade, it was a massive military operation. You had Italians, you had French, you had Germans, you had the Venetians, and they led a huge fleet. They landed in Egypt. Why did they land in Egypt? They landed in Egypt because prior crusaders had seen that the Muslims who were occupying with the Turks at the time were able to wage war and hold Jerusalem because of the food, the wealth, and the manpower coming out of Egypt. So they landed at the port of Damietta to choke off Egyptian wealth and then use that as a springboard to attack Jerusalem. On paper, it was a good plan, except for the fact they were up against Sultan al-Kamil, a really skilled Turkish leader with a very powerful army. And after 2 years, 1217 to 1219, they were bogged down in a stalemate. A ship arrives from Italy with St. Francis aboard. Now, the commander of the crusade was Cardinal Pelagius. The Pope appointed this guy to go off to the Middle East and kill people in the name of Christ, okay? And we could get into all that. St. Francis did something, Michael, that to this day, military experts still don't understand how he did it. He crossed enemy lines by himself and met with the Sultan. And the Sultan spent 5 days with him. They prayed together, they discussed philosophy, and the Sultan was so impressed with this holy man. And even though St. Francis said, do you want to convert to Christianity? And the Sultan was a devout Muslim, he said, no, but I respect you as a holy man. And the Sultan granted Francis and his followers safe passage to go to Jerusalem, where they founded the Custodia Terra Sancta, which is the mission of St. Francis. 800 years later, it's still there. It's a center for peace and interfaith dialogue. It is like the eye of the hurricane. It's the eye of reason in the hurricane of turbulence that's there. The Sultan also negotiated with Francis and brokered a peace deal where he said, I will give Jerusalem to the Crusaders. I'll give them safe passage, but they get Jerusalem, and that's it. Well, no, that wasn't good enough. They wanted the whole kit and caboodle. Well, Francis and his followers got safe passage, but the crusading army really should have taken the deal because after St. Francis left, Sultan al-Kamil's army wiped the Crusaders off the face of the earth. Anyway, just had to put that in there as a historical context. But the thing is, Francis was truly a man of peace. He treated Muslims with respect and faith. He treated Jews with respect and faith. And this was a time of great religious intolerance in the world. And that's what he taught us, is that everyone is my brother. Everyone is my sister.
Oh, I love it. We have a lot of baby deer around here being born. Right now, a lot of deer consciousness is pretty cool. We have a fence that's like wrought iron, and I never thought a baby deer could go through those little spindles, the up and down metal pieces. But it was
Yeah.
so small, it was like the size of a basketball. It was in our yard. I startled it, it startled me, and it jumped back through. Talk to us about, we have Cara Mexican eagles here. I've got a hummingbird feeder right there. They're coming in and out, and other animals as well. Talk to us about animal consciousness, how it's pretty put together.
In spirit communication, animals often come through. I mean, why not? I grew up when I went to Catholic school, it was like only humans have souls. Well, no. Every living being has a soul, and any entity capable of the emotion of love is capable of spirit communication. And throughout my career as a medium, I've connected with cats, dogs, horses, birds, bunnies, gerbils, hamsters, even a bear one time, which was really rather interesting. And the thing is, I no longer, I hated the term dumb animals. Oh, they're dumb animals. No, they're not dumb. It's a different form of intelligence. I saw that you have a dog go by. Dogs, they read our moods. They know when you're happy. They know when you're sad. They know, when you're not feeling well. And a dog can distinguish between being stumbled over and intentionally kicked. They do get that. So animals have a different way of looking at things. And in spirit communication, animals are very direct. They either love you or they don't. And and that's the way animals are in this world. I mean, they can tell if you don't like them. So animals either love you or they don't. Whereas human relationships have all these nuances and strings and all these this unnecessary clutter. But animals are a very pure form. And I'm not saying, oh, if you see a bear, go up and try to pet it. I'm not telling you that. You have to use some common sense too. But there was something about St. Francis where animals would gravitate to him. And it could have been because they didn't perceive him as a threat. And once again, if you are in Florida and you see an alligator or in parts of Texas, do not approach it. Okay, it's got a brain about this size. It does not experience the emotion of love. And if it's hungry and it sees you, you're dinner. Always treat nature with respect. One thing that we saw during the pandemic at the national parks when people weren't going there is trees and foliage started regrowing in areas. Animals started appearing in places they hadn't seen before. The canals of Venice, Italy became very clean, and for the first time in 400 years, dolphins were spotted in the canals of Venice. So, what this shows us is that we may need nature, but it sure doesn't need us and what we do to pollute it. And the best thing that we can do with our fellow creatures, whom we share this planet with, is respect them.
Mm. Are you available to talk to one angel? Maybe my parents. I've had other people chat with my parents. They're reconciled on the other side. I'll put up the angel Joy first to set the tone. Can we get a message for everyone on their daily path? What do we need to remember? Here's that angel Joy. You've talked to her before. That's an actual photo. I was very not out of college. I was 42 at the time, but I acted like a college student, very industrious, entrepreneurial. I grabbed a Sure Shot camera, got a lot of photos by the thousands. Here's Joy. What does she have as a reminder for all of us? But could you first get a compliment for yourself and feel a lot of love and tingliness or whatever?
Uh, yes, Joy does have them. And I want to comment first. Joy wants me to say this. For people who don't understand, a lot of people say, well, that's just a purple dot. What you have to realize is when we think of angels, we think of the Christmas card of the blonde hair, blue eyed Ocean Pacific angel with wings. Spirits are energy fields, they're a coherent quantum field. My electromagnetic soul theory explains this. And orbs are spirits, and that's why in paranormal or spiritual investigations, like you just did, you snapped a picture of this angelic entity who's a ball of light. Because when spirits come in, that's how they appear, because that's what they are. What a spirit does is he or she or they emit electromagnetic waves of frequency. There's several spirits there, and it goes into the recipient's brain and is converted into recognizable concepts. The way I see angels when they communicate with me is they have a humanoid form. I always say they kind of look like an Academy Award, like they look like an Oscar, but they glow from the inside out and they're translucent. Now, over the centuries, people who have encountered angels started depicting them with wings because the projections of light that emanate from what would be their chest and shoulder area could be interpreted as wings. And think about it. The Egyptians, like we see the goddess Isis with the wings, Hindus and Buddhists have depictions of angels with wings. Certainly, Christians, Greek Orthodox. I mean, the LDS Church. This is a reoccurring theme throughout history. What Joy's message is, in order to experience joy, her name, and you've got to get out of your own way. She said, stop tripping over your own past. Stop getting involved with things you have no control over, what other people think of you, bitter things that happened in your past. Acknowledge those, but don't let them dominate. Once you stop letting that suck the joy out of you, you'll begin to experience joy now. So, in a nutshell, her message is get out of your own way. Now, that doesn't mean marginalize or overlook yourself, but stop getting, oh, woe is me. We all have problems, health problems, financial problems, relationship problems, something problems. Yes, they're important. Yes, this is your pain, but put it in perspective and realize that these problems, these pain, they are not you. You are much deeper than that. Now, was your mother always now obviously Michael, you're very health and fitness conscious, but I'm getting a female energy coming through to you who's focusing on your diet, your diet. And I keep tasting lettuce, vegetables. Are you on a primarily plant-based diet or should you be?
Ooh. Don't know. Doing pasta right now and just
Well, pasta's good. I mean,
yeah,
it's made from vegetables.
not a lot
What
of
I'm
red meat at all.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
once a month.
yeah. That's fine. She's showing me the vegetables and she's telling me that, and also she said you're soon going to be going to a higher elevation.
Hmm.
Are you visiting any mountains or something in like the next like 8 weeks or so? She showed me a higher elevation.
Oh, no, but it might be a metaphor. And I'll mention the fruits and vegetables, doing a lot of those, avocados, watermelon, whole, like,
Good,
watermelon
good.
daily.
Okay, so you're going to a higher elevation. That could be a metaphor as well. Um, this is interesting. Your father's spirit keeps talking about your left side, left hand, left side, left hand. Any issues with your left side, left hand, or with him and his left side, left hand?
It would be my right hand. I've got a little bit of dryness here and here that I just have to treat it with moisturizer and stuff like that.
No, they're talking about your left side, left hand. Okay. Let me see. Interesting. Were you working on something recently with some tools where you really had to torque something down? I'm seeing like nuts and bolts and really trying to torque something down.
Not that I'm very vacuous, so I'm not the best one for this. I don't think so that I've got anything going on this side that I know of.
Okay. Something's going on where you've got to be very careful of your left hand. Like, don't let it get injured.
Like, don't
So,
overdo it. Don't put yourself in don't go
don't overdo
crazy.
it. Yeah, like don't
Yeah.
hit it with a hammer. Don't torque it. Don't put too much stress on your wrist.
Okay.
Because I know, like when I'm putting up hurricane shutters in Florida, I got to wear these hand braces because inevitably I get like really bad carpal tunnel type of pain, and
Yep.
that's what they're telling me about you is you've got to stabilize your wrist. It seems like you're right-handed, so naturally your right hand will be stronger than your left, but there's something about your left hand, left wrist that has to be shielded and or protected. So be mindful of that. And you can
Okay.
even get that from extensive computer work too. I keep seeing you're working on nuts and bolts. Now, working with nuts and bolts could also mean could be a metaphor that there is some type of practical issue or problem that you are yet to face or
Hmm.
that you're dealing with now. Okay. And the fact that left hand, interesting is those of us who are right-handed, we're always going to grab everything with the right hand. The left hand would symbolize thinking outside of the box and taking a different approach, but
Mm.
still approach the problem with caution because that thinking outside of the box may get you hurt some way. So
Okay.
that's the message.
I love it. Um, Talk to us a little bit about what you do daily or weekly as a practice to recharge, especially when you've had to give of yourself to a lot of people.
I love swimming. There's something about water. Well, not something about water. In fact, we were talking about this earlier, Michael, is for people who feel spiritually cluttered or just stressed in general, take a shower. Now, that may sound simplistic, but when you take a shower, envision the water being the white light of the Holy Spirit, Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness, however, and that it's cleansing your auric field and all your negativity and stress is going right down the drain. Water is an extremely good conductor of electromagnetic energy. So for me, I got a pool and I'm in that pool. Like people go say, "Do you ever go in your pool?" Yeah, like 10 times a day. And the way my house is structured, I have like this U-shaped house with the pool in the middle, so I can just jump in it all the time. It's part of the house. And not everybody has that available, but you have a shower. Now, taking a shower and cleansing your auric field. Also, wash your feet. Now, not just for hygiene, but in many religious belief systems, it's in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, there is a sacredness about washing the feet. You see, like the Pope will wash people's feet on Christmas Mass and Christmas Eve. In the Far East, people take their shoes off before they go in someone's house, and it's not just for hygiene, it's a matter of respect. The auric field, okay, everything that has an energy source has an aura. Okay, behind me, you see that red light, or you see the Tesla sphere, and there's a glow back there. Why do you see a glow? Because they all have an energy field. Well, so do we. And that's our aura. Okay, we have an electromagnetic field. And your auric field, the energy field around you, bottlenecks just below your knees. And that's where the washing of the feet ceremony comes from, is to not just cleanse the dirt, but it's symbolic of cleansing the negative vibrations, negative energy from your body. And one of the things I always do is before bed, I wash my feet. I mean, I usually take a shower, but I make sure that. And that's a very ancient concept. It's like when people go into Catholic churches, East and Greek Orthodox churches, there's holy water. Holy water is salt water because salt is an ionically charged particle. If you ever go into a Japanese restaurant or a Japanese temple, but most of us have been to a sushi bar or something, before you walk through the front door, the threshold, look at the door jamb at the bottom. 99 times out of 100, you're going to see two little piles of something white on either side of the door. It's salt. And what it is in Shintoism, which is a uniquely Japanese belief system, which has been adopted by the Zen Buddhists of that country, salt wards off negative energy, negative spirits, negativity. And so there are practices about eliminating negativity, negative energy from your auric field, from your home, which go through all cultures.
We had Alex Utterman on. She's trained in India for 5 years straight when Sri Kaleshwar was alive. But she described early on, and she'd been to India many other times, but she described early on being invited as a brand new attendee, so to speak, to rub the feet of Sri Kaleshwar. And Indian gurus, they rub the feet, but it's usually reserved for more of a veteran of the group. So she was
Well,
on her.
certainly, but there it
Yeah,
is again. There it is again.
exactly.
Yes, yeah.
So people can check that out in June of 2026. Alex Utterman, ALX is the key, not ALEX. Mark, talk to us a little bit more about the last time, or one of the last recent in the last 5 years, You either had a lucid dream, a stranger that you're just left laughing afterwards because you're like, oh my God, they got me. Sparkly eyes, they said just what I needed. They weren't necessarily there when I turned. You got help one way or the other. And I'm going to give you 10 seconds as I just tell one with her. I think it was 2011. I was worried about ghosts, had not met Plato or an angel, taken any photos. I'm stuck on the concept that ghosts might exist. And now I'm getting jittery because everyone is who's psychic out there. I didn't know what to call it. They're starting to share messages that are uninvited. I'm at a crystal shop buying all the black onyx tourmaline. I want protection. I'm nervous. And the woman was really nice. She started explaining stuff. She's like, hey, no, you want selenite. Much more fun. And a South by Southwest photographer in the middle of a concert at South by Southwest stopped what she's doing and she goes, I see the light all over you. You're flaring up right now. And we became friends. But I'm still jittery about this. I just want to get a burger at a restaurant that reminds me of Nantucket. I'm in Austin, Texas. I don't want to talk to anybody. And I walk into the place. It's totally quiet and empty. Haven't been there in 3 months since South by Southwest. I grab the spot. There's one guy that's a Hispanic Nick Nolte eating out of a mindfulness video at the end of the bar. The bartender's not the same, so it's pretty quiet. In walks the guy the last time I was there, 2 or 3 months earlier, normal human. We had the best conversation. He did album covers in the 70s. Today it's real estate. And we are like, oh my God, have you been back since? No. So last time I saw you, yeah. So we start talking. I feel immediately comfortable. I get out of my seat to a complete stranger, go down to the end of the bar. It's joy in human form. Again, Hispanic Nick Nolte told us we chatted for 30 seconds, the three of us. He owns a farm in southern Texas, like grapefruit or something. Cover story. Angels have them. All I know is I'm babbling about ghosts, seeing them. I look into the fellow's eyes. It's really Joy, the female angel, whatever. I see the cosmos moving, and from that moment on, I never worried about ghosts again. She threw me over the fence. I need a lot of help getting just the most basic learning done. But Mark, I bought you as much time as you could. Could you give us some juicy, flavorful moments, one way or the other? You had some interesting interactions.
Oh my goodness. Um, yes. Um, it's a reading that I did for somebody who's quite famous, and out of respect for that person, I'm not going to say who it is. Um, and she was older and not older. I'm saying she was 50, okay, which I don't consider older. But during the reading, for her and her husband, I said, there's something that's coming around March or April. This is big. It's going to affect your career, and you're going to have to tell the studio or whoever is making the films that you're involved with that you're going to have to be away for a while, and it involves two additional people. And she and her husband looked at each other, and she said, "I'm pregnant with twins, and I haven't told anyone yet." And when you said, I need to tell them, that's when I was targeting it. That I was going to tell the studio. And then I said, it was her father's spirit who was communicating. I said, you're going to get a terrible scare in the month of February, but you have to stand your ground. Don't let them do anything drastic. Stand your ground. Don't let them do anything like an abortion. Stand your ground. You'll get through the scare, and then by April, you'll have two healthy babies. Okay. Well, I didn't hear from her for about 2 years, and then she wanted another reading, and I brought up the Zoom, and sitting on the bed next to her was the most beautiful little boy, 2 years old, and she said, in February when I was pregnant with my twins, they wanted to abort my son because there was a problem, like what my dad conveyed through you. There was a serious problem, and they called Fetus A, which is my little girl, and she's in the other room playing. And the little boy was Fetus B, and they said Fetus B has a problem. They wanted to extract it, and my husband and I stood our ground, and then the situation resolved. And I'll never forget, Michael, and it just brings tears to my eyes. And I'm so humbled that because of the messages I was able to receive, this beautiful little boy was sitting right next to her, and he was just such a great little kid. And she said, I really want to thank you. And I said, well, I was just the radio. You got to thank God. You got to thank your dad. But it was an honor to be the radio.
Oh, I like that a lot. Well, as we start to wrap up, let's go back to daily living for all of us. I don't think there's a human being who doesn't feel like they don't have a lot on their plate. It's sort of like when we tell people to slow down. It's like trying to hand out a ticket at the Indy 500 or the Daytona 500. Good luck with that. So, what's your practical advice for us all? How much do we really have here already? Is there really nothing to learn, nothing to lose, nothing to gain, nothing to lose? Move past seeing the negative. Is that how it works?
I think the negative, you can't have the positive without the negative. You can't have darkness, without the light or light without the darkness. We have to realize that negativity, negative things are going to be part of our lives. We're going to lose people we love. Um, you can do everything right, eat all the right things, take all the right supplements, and don't smoke, don't drink, and still get cancer. People think it can't happen to me. I'll never get in a car accident. Then they do. Realize that all these experiences are part of our journey, but when we're finished living in the material world and we leave this body, think of your electromagnetic soul, your EMS, as a drop of water. And when we physically die, that drop of water leaves and then it plunges into this eternal sea of souls. And then, as pure energy, energy doesn't get old, sick, tired, or die. That's what we are. You're still be an individual, but now you're going to be patched into this infinite collective. But while we're living in the material world, things are going to happen to us. Some of these things are going to be very painful. Parents who've lost a child, people who develop horrific diseases, all types of why me or living in an oppressive country or state, but realize everything in this world is temporary and just stay focused and just do the very best you can.
Hmm. Uh, with your permission, we'll take a couple interactive steps. And I keep looking at a not baby deer, but it's a junior, was a baby deer a couple months ago. So I keep looking over there because they're cute. We have the back fence over there. Um, I'd like to light sage, blow it your way, and then with your permission, show you an aura. We've done this before, but
Yeah.
you never know when you get something extra out of that light, and you're going to have another message for us, spontaneous from angels, the universe, saints, Mary, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and so on. I'm going to light sage. You get to catch it in Florida. I'm in Texas. We've done it before. If anyone's tuning in, they don't know what we're talking about. There's no time and space, and you can just catch a little bit of smoke, sage, tobacco, sweetgrass. It'll be whatever you'll allow for. And maybe that is another message. What will you allow for more daily, or let go a little, have a little more fun? Okay, here's the sage. You may already be catching it. I haven't even blown any smoke yet. Let us know when you get the initial sage.
Oh, yeah.
And then could you ask for flowers? And you're already on the ocean, but how about like West Coast, Seychelles, Nantucket, something different? Bethany Beach, Rehoboth, somewhere.
Um, wow. I'm seeing plumeria, which some people call frangipani. I'm seeing ginger, like the ginger, the red and the yellow ginger. Um, and gardenia.
Aw, that's super
Gardenia.
sweet.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to tell a flower dad joke. I'm going to put my fingers up against this. You get to see a filament of light. I'll go wider and bigger after you name what you initially see. And some people get objects. We've had about 10 people see Jesus's face, but two people saw red cardinals, two people saw phoenixes. It could be just more light. It could be anything. Three people on the same panel saw Jesus's face. That was kind of cool. But just ask for it to be nice if you're at home. You'll see what you want to, what you'll allow yourself to see. It's always light on everything around us all the time. Good luck with that. A little thinking kicks in. But the dad joke. What's the only flower found on the human face? Tulips.
Tulips.
And iris is another one as well. Okay. Breathe, relax, no try Yoda. I'll do Yoda's voice as I'm doing this. You'll see a little filament of light between my fingertips in just a second. If you could say what it is when you see it. Hmm? Do not. There is no try. What are you getting, Mark, in between?
I've seen a white dove.
Oh, I'll go a little bigger and maybe St. Francis can add extra, or maybe it's just a little extra light. Who knows? What are you getting now?
Oh, it's funny. Um, I'm getting a knight, a Knight.
Oh my goodness. You just gave me
Yeah.
chills up and down my legs.
And he's wearing silver armor. I mean, it is silver from head to toe. And he said, the knight must shine the light for the right, not the right wing for right. What is right?
And if you'll cup your hands at your end, allow all this beautiful light from St. Francis to come into your hands. You can cup it like you're in the shower if you want off camera. It doesn't matter which way you want to do it. But let the light come into your hands. When you look down at your hands, you'll see more light, feel more light, and I'll take a seat. And then when you're ready, bring it in for a massive hug from St. Francis and everyone else, whoever helped you with all that. I'm assuming St. Francis was in there front and center.
Would make sense with the knight.
It would. And have him influence the close. You've done a ton of shows. You're a show host with Dr. Pat, so you have your own long time running series. And what else can I say? You've got tons of experience closing out a show, so let's have you do it with all that energy we just had. Close us out.
It's a prayer that I want to share with everyone. Believe in yourself, but believe in God. Believe in yourself and accept the will of God. Believe in yourself and have no fear. The presence of the divine is always near.
You made me yawn. I was letting go. I like that. I had my eyes closed and yawned after that was over. I'll add show love always, and that Mark Anthony, you're absolutely stellar. Thank you for being always a wonderful guest on the show.
Thank you,
Can't
Mike.
wait to have you back on.
Thank you, Michael. Many blessings. I look forward to next time. And to everyone, namaste. God bless.